Okay, we're back to our online press training for Pre-Leg 2. I've kept all the files from Pre-Leg 1 on the website, so anytime you need to refer back to those videos or those slideshows, feel free. But today what I'm going to go through are the goals for Pre-Leg 2. Okay, number one, you need to turn in your revised non-candidate interview story. I sent back to you a corrected version of your original non-candidate interview story, and I need you to make those corrections and email me a Word copy of your revised one. You also need to send to me a first draft of your legislation story, the one that you researched at Pre-Leg 1. I include my email address on the slide, so if you haven't done that yet, please do that, preferably today, if not as soon as you get home tonight or tomorrow morning. I'm also want to discuss what you're doing today at Pre-Leg 2, very similar to Pre-Leg 1. Remember, no campaigning, so if you have any buttons or since we're having elections today, you can't be wearing any type of campaign paraphernalia, so please remove that. Your two main jobs today are to write a second legislation story, pretty much exactly what you did at Pre-Leg 1, except choosing a different piece of legislation. And you're also going to research and write an informal survey story. And I'll talk a little bit during this training on what that type of story is. I'll briefly touch upon the legislation story, but then I'll ask you if you need a recap on that to go to the previous slideshow from Pre-Leg 1 about writing that legislation story. And as I've said, I'm at my computer today as you're going through this process. Email me any concerns you may have. Any questions? I'd also ask if you please just email me to say everything's going fine. I left you a phone number that you can text me questions, and I will check those as well and get back to you as soon as I can. Okay, what's happening today? Pretty much the same thing that happened in Pre-Leg 1, except in a little more advanced state. People are going through another round of trainings. Legislators are in committee, further perfecting their bills. I think today they're going to talk more about the merits of the bills as opposed to just the way they're set up. When you do your legislation research, you need to be in committee just like you were during Pre-Leg 1. And today we're having elections, so make sure you vote when it's your turn to vote. You could vote for whoever you want, so enjoy the democratic process. All right, first thing you're going to do is find a new piece of legislation. You should have the list of legislation given to you when you entered the pre-leg. If not, check with your advisor, check with the head advisor of the program there, and make sure you get a copy of what legislation is available. It'll look very similar to what you had at Pre-Leg 1. Just like at Pre-Leg 1, make sure you pick a different piece of legislation from other reporters at your pre-leg, so you all have different pieces of legislation, and make sure you pick a different piece of legislation from Pre-Leg 1. Also, make sure the legislation you pick, no one wrote about that one at Pre-Leg 1 as well. Okay, so we want to make sure we get two separate pieces of legislation that you are writing about, so we can put that in the first issue. Just choose whatever you find interesting. That's the main thing. And make sure there is no duplications. Okay, once you've picked your bill, you're ready to go and start researching it. Okay, which means going to committee, getting your bill brief, and all that lovely stuff. Like I said, what you did during Pre-Leg 1. And at that point, if you have concerns or questions about how to write or research the legislation story, go to the two slideshows from Pre-Leg 1 where I discuss how to research and write the legislation story, and that should keep you up to speed. Okay, so if you need to do that, I do that now, or if you want to listen to the rest of this slideshow and then do it, that's perfectly fine as well. Okay, the informal survey story, that's the other story you're going to write. So when you're done today, you should have information to write two stories. The informal survey story, you can see the sample on the left, and there's also a PDF file on the website if you want to download it and print it. You're just asking the delegates a question and then surveying their opinion and writing a story about what the delegates think about a particular issue or topic. So the structure of the informal survey is very easy. The lead basically states what you discovered, what your question is, and what you discovered. So I put two examples. Let's say you're asking, the delegates who's going to win the Super Bowl. And the majority of delegates believe the Chicago Bears will win 2011 Super Bowl. That's your lead. It states what your question was and state what the delegates believe. Something a little bit more youth and government connected. You could say, for instance, let's say you ask the people, do you agree with, perhaps this isn't happening, I'm just making this up. Let's say YNG was trying to get rid of the lieutenant governor position. And you could ask, do you agree or disagree, and why, with the policy of getting rid of the lieutenant governor position? And let's say after you interviewed 15, 20 people, you found that they were split. There was no consensus one way or the other. Your lead could be something like the example there. Delegates are split about YNG's decision to remove the lieutenant governor's position from the program. So that lead just states the question, okay, that you're going to have and where the delegates stand. Okay, you follow that with introductory statements followed just by quotations. So for example, if we're writing that Bears story, you could have an introductory statement such as this: several believe the Bears offense is effective enough to mount a charge in the playoffs. Okay, if you put that introductory sentence, I'm assuming you would think your next quotations would be about the Bears offense. So it's just kind of like the legislation story where you paraphrase or lead into a quote and then you write your quotation. The same thing for the informal survey. You have an introductory statement and then you follow that up with quotations that support it. Once again, read the sample article. It'll be kind of crystal clear to you. If there is not a consensus opinion, you can't get agreement one way or the other, and the delegates are split, which is usually the case. State one side of the opinion first and then make a transition to the other side. Example, we're back to the Bears story. Although many believe in the Bears' chances for a Super Bowl berth, others are not so sure. And then following that introductory statement, you would then have quotes of people who are not so sure. So it's the informal survey is primarily a bunch of quotes that state the opinions of the delegates about an issue. Make sure you let them speak. Okay, the quotations you get of the delegates should be the bulk of your article. Remember, you need to introduce them. Okay, you need to introduce the quotation. In some cases, if you have a series of quotations that are about the same thing, like in this case, the Bears offense, you could run all three of those quotations without an introductory statement before each of them. But if you have different viewpoints, you want to introduce each viewpoint before you put the quotation out there. Okay? Things to remember about the informal survey. Okay, these are important things to remember. Number one, get a good question. Okay, your question could be about a piece of legislation, it could be about something in the program, it could be about a current event, it could be pretty much anything. But make sure you have a good question. The better the question, the better the story, the more people will be willing to read it. After you get your question, interview a lot of people. Okay, just like with all your interviews, get a wide range. Males, females, different schools, different genders, different ethnicities, the whole kit and caboodle. Make sure names are spelled correctly. As always, get their job in the program, their YMCA, and their high school. And remember our formats. Youth and government is always Y and G. When you put someone's school, it's always their YMCA followed by their high school. So you have Elmhurst Lake Park, Elmhurst Y, Lake Park High School. Okay, BR Ryle, Wheaton, Warrenville South, Network Stag. That's how we list the schools. So make sure you get their Y and their school and list it in that way. You never should say the words high school. You never should say the words Y. It's just Y followed by the school name. All right, wrapping up. In summary, what you should do for me. Number one, email me a revised copy of the non-candidate interview story and a copy of your first legislation story. That should be done by now. If not, do it right away. You should have the revisions to the non-candidate interview, and you should have written your first legislation story, the one you researched at Pre-Leg 1. Number two, get the information to write a second legislation story. That's from the list of legislation that you already have. Remember to get the bill brief. Remember to talk to all the sponsors and the lobbyists. Remember to go to the committee and listen to the committee debate. Talk to other delegates about the bill. Remember, in committee you can pull people out. Make sure you quote accurately. Make sure you get names. Make sure names are spelled correctly. Okay, all that goes without saying. All right, develop an informal survey story by choosing a good question and then by going out and getting good quotations from delegates. Please do not choose a yes or no question. If you do, get reasons why they're in favor or against. You must leave today with the information to write a second legislation story and an informal survey story. That's the bulk of it. You must leave with the information to write those two things. I will email you revisions of your first legislation story, and then you'll email me after that the corrected copy of your first legislation story and a copy of your second legislation story and a copy of your informal survey story. So when all is said and done, for all the students who are at Pre-Leg 1 and Pre-Leg 2, you will have 4 stories submitted to me. If you were not at Pre-Leg 1, you're most likely going to have 3 stories, the 2 you wrote here and your non-candidate interview story. So make sure all that stuff gets to me as soon as you are done. Finally, if you have a camera with you, either on your phone or a camera, take some pictures for me and email those to me as well. I need those for the first issue. I'd like to get some pictures from the north as well as from the south where I am. So please take photos and email those photos to me. As with any photo, please document who is in the photo, what school and why they're in, what their program, or their job in the program is, and what they're doing in the photograph. All right, make sure you email that with the photo because I won't know who these people are if I see them. And most importantly, have a good time. And I look forward to seeing you guys in March. And please email me that things are going great. If they're going great, if they're not going great, email me and maybe I can help out and make your experience better there. But I'm here to help, and that's what I'm doing right now. So have fun. I look forward to seeing you guys in March.